Hello viewers, welcome back to my channel. It's Matt Kayem once again. It's always Matt Kayem here as your host on this channel. So today is a special day. It's always a special day. We have very special days here. But today we have a special guest. But before we go into a special guest, let me talk about how I'm dressed. I was dressed by Senkulu House of Fashions as usual. This beautiful kaftan they have. Of course, he's a very talented fashion designer, young fashion designer right there. So this is some of what they have in their stock. So today's special guest is Henry Mzili Mujunga, Mzili in quotes. And Henry is a visual artist here in Kampala, Uganda. He's contributed a lot to the East African art scene, the Ugandan art scene, and the African art scene in general. He's been part of the Pan-African circle of artists, and he has done several things around the continent, around Uganda. He's co-founder of Kampala Arts Trust, among so many other ventures around the art scene here in Kampala. But yeah, we won't go so far into his accomplishments. I'll put down something down below there in the captions below the video. But then yeah, let's just dive in right now to a conversation because we don't have so much time. Let's dive in and conversate around these ideas, and most especially that Henry Mzili today, or a week or 2 weeks back, he has opened up a show, what we could call a retrospective of his work, 25 years of practicing. So our conversation will rotate around this major show at Afriart Gallery in Kamosha. So yeah, Mzili, thanks a lot for having us, giving us the time of the day to talk with you. Congratulations on the 25 years of filling our minds and eyes with art. I love the centerpiece, the center wall showing your artistic journey and its key moments from 1999 to date. Tell us, when you look back, what are the 3 moments in your career you are most proud of, and why? Give us a reason why these moments.
Thank you, Matt. When I look back in the chronicles of time, my time, I have certain moments that I treasure. I don't know if there are 3, but at least I know one of them is my experience in Bagamoyo, Tanzania, in 2001. I got exposed to a group of creatives from different genres, different creative genres, and I was able to interact with dancers, with actors, as well as performance artists, because I was more or less a plastic artist. But in this environment, I was able to work with these people to come up with a new way of expressing myself. So basically that was like the icebreaker. Like 2001 was really a very good moment for me. But to be honest, prior to that, my encounter with Maria Fisher of Tulifanya Art Gallery in 1998 was very, very important. I was part of a group of young artists who were discovered. She used to run an exhibition called Discovery. In 1998, this lady, Maria Fischer, she was a German lady, but based in Kampala. So she was always discovering young artists, and she had a show in January called Discoveries. And this is where she would welcome young artists to show their work after rigorous selection. And I was lucky to be selected in that exhibition in '98. That was a very, very pivotal moment for me. And because when I participated in Discoveries, I, so to speak, stood out to a point where she gave me an exhibition in '99, my very first solo exhibition at Tulifanya Gallery. So the other moment, of course, in my career as an artist, of course, was when I got my first child, because that really transformed my experience as a person, and I started looking at the world in a different lens, you know. So if I could say that, the rest of the stuff that has happened in my life has been more or less intentional. Yes.
You've been governing it.
Yes.
You know, directing it. Interesting. Looking at your career, it is clear that you and Zenson have been at the forefront of introducing the Ugandan audience to contemporary art in quotes and breaking the hegemony and monotony of painting and the usual plastic arts. I mean, I saw a picture of you doing a performance piece with Zenson in 2002 at Normal Gallery that was written about by Nathan Chiwere. And there was this title, he wrote Uganda Mystery Art from Here. That was an interesting title.
Yes, yes.
But what drove you to think outside the box? And do you think those experiments and direction was relevant to the art scene then or even now?
Well, you know, Matt, like I had said earlier, my experience in Bagamoyo was really life-changing. But by nature, I'm a very inquisitive person, and I'm always searching for new ways of expressing myself. I'm always restless when it comes to creativity. So when I got this tool called performance art or visual theater, I immediately wanted to put it into practice in Kampala. Remember, I got this from Bagamoyo in Tanzania. When I came back, I did a series of workshops actually with Normal Gallery. And within these galleries, within these workshops, I shared. Remember, at this time, Uganda Artists Association was very alive. And we would always meet at Normal Gallery.
Was it headed by Nagawa at that time?
No, that one was headed by Taga, I think. Was it Nagawa? Could have been Nagawa. Margaret Nagawa. Actually, Margaret Nagawa, I think, was president, and Taga was vice president, I think. So we shared our experiences. There was this lady, Barbara Rwanga. I was with her in Bagamoyo. So I did a performance with her. I did like 2 performances with her. I remember in one of them I carried her in a sack, in a white sack, and I came and dumped her like a burden. I think this
time... She was an artist as well?
Yes, she was an artist. She is an artist, although I haven't been in touch with her since she went to the US. But we were trying to use art. In fact, for me, I was very happy about this mode of expression. You don't necessarily act out things the way the actors and dramatists do it, but you create moments that leave a particular impact in the mind of the viewer, and they're visual. We used this technique back then to tackle some of the issues that were, you know, important at that, back then. Even now, they're still important. Issues like corruption. So most of the work that I did with performance art was about corruption. And this culminated into a performance with Zenson, where we used props to demonstrate how the corrupt behave. And we also tried to show how corruption actually hurts society. And we're doing this at Normal Gallery. And Normal Gallery is just next to the Presidential Lodge in Nakasero. I remember when we were rehearsing, at one point, there was a security man who came and was asking us, no, was actually observing us all the time. what we were doing is we had costumes and we had props. Now, if you get that kind of arrangement in 2002, and you juxtapose it with, say, the arrangement that some people do outside Parliament, we would definitely have been arrested.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But back in 2002, things were very different.
Yeah.
Because here we were
Political,
creating this performance that is actually against corruption in the backyard of the State Lodge, and we were being given leeway to express ourselves as creatives. I remember we even eventually presented it to the. There was I think we used to have a forum that was fighting corruption. I'm trying to remember what it was called back in the day. I don't know if it's still existing, but we presented it during the show, and people were very, very excited, but also perplexed, because visual theater is not very easy to grasp.
It is, yeah. I mean, yeah, performance art is a very interesting, field of the visual art scene, or the visual art sector. I mean, and often there's always, lines that need to be drawn between performance art and theater.
Yes.
Or sometimes not, I don't know.
But the lines are very blurred, except for the fact that the narrative in drama is really trying to tell a story, explain an event or portray a group of events. Now, unlike in visual theater, where you are just using moments and then you piece them together, and the moments involve complicated human activity. For example, I may not walk the way I walk normally. I may carry objects, but not in the way that they are supposed to be carried. So with visual theater, you create these question marks as you perform. And sometimes some people take it to a level where they create certain agonizing moments, which might also involve self-inflicted pain. I've seen that a lot in visual theater. But basically, it involves also pushing the human body to express itself in a more direct way.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Interesting, yeah. Sculpture is the other mode you majored in during your undergrad at Margaret Trowell School, and you practiced it at the beginning of your career, but you are mostly or exclusively now a painter. Is there a chance that we will see a return to a three-dimensional, form of expression?
I have expressed myself with sculpture before. I actually, when I was starting out, apart from the exhibition that I did at Tulifanya, I was already making public works. I was doing sculptures at Mulago. I was doing sculptures at Silver Springs in Bugolobi. I was doing sculptures within campus. I did the crocodile at Complex Hall in Makerere University. Then I was also doing some works at Resort Beach in Tebe. We did some sculptures there. What actually drove me away from sculpture was that it was very demanding in terms of costs for the materials. One, you would work a lot. You'd work a lot with these very heavy and expensive materials, but it was not as paying as art, as painting. And I was also not very happy with the amount of labor that was involved. At first I was doing printmaking because printmaking was giving me results instantly. Like you cut the piece of wood, then you print. And then I realized that actually I was more drawn to painting because of my professor, Professor Pilkington Sengendo. He had inspired me a lot with abstraction. And then I also interfaced with the Sudanese, Salah Al-Mul, Absharia Mohammed, and there was another, El Tayyib. And these people were using a lot of abstract expression within painting. Stephen Kasumba was also very pivotal in influencing me as a painter. I admired his works. Maybe because I had also heard a lot about him from my older brother, Fred Bachaita. He had said a lot about Stephen Kasumba. In fact, at one point he said, there's only one guy in Kampala who paints, and that is Stephen Kasumba.
Ah, was that before he had seen Intensive?
Yes, Intensive is relatively new in terms of influence. He has influenced us, but Stephen Kasumba was painting when there were students, and he was doing amazing work. There was another painter, Abu Muyunga. He was doing amazing paintings that were abstract.
The collector now?
And I happened, he's now a collector, I think. But we happened to see his works when we were in campus, and they inspired me. So I kind of admired painting. And when I was studying, I studied the Picassos, the Klimts, Gustav Klimt, and all these people. They're all painters. So somehow I found myself drifting towards painting as an expression. And then there was also a time in Kampala where, to be honest, we were no longer selling sculpture because it was bulky. And most of the work we were making, we were selling it to expatriates. So they had to, at the end of their tenure, they had to travel back home, and they would not carry these sculptures. So it was like an organic evolution that occurred.
Interesting. So let's talk about indigenous expressionism, a movement that has been linked to you. If we break down this, what is indigenous about your practice and what is expressive? What do you think an exploration into the indigenous is important to artists here in Uganda or Africa, or even the public in general, the people around us? Why do they need to dig into, the indigenous?
I think the indigenous is about identity. It's about who you are and how you express yourself authentically. The authenticity is really what creates the indigenous aspect of my expression, of that phrase that I coined back in the day. When I work instinctively, that means using my heritage and also digging deep into my childhood experience, as well as combining it with my learned practices, which is the school training. And I create an art form that actually is about me and is about the way I express myself. It creates indigenous expressionism. That's how I looked at it. I did not look at it in the context of tribal art, where you have to refer to the tradition of your... I automatically believed that this part of your heritage is passed on to you through your genes. This was the kind of actually thinking that embodied most of Stephen Kasumba's ideology when he was painting his abstract works. The whole concept evolved around digging into yourself and spewing out what you have artistically, using whatever medium. And this gave me, or whoever expresses themselves this way, a certain degree of authenticity. And that means that my work has always been evolving and changing. I have not been sitting in one place as a painter. I have been exploring whatever comes to my mind during the time when it comes to my mind, without fear. I have always held the thought that style is not a very good word for a creative person. I think that style is the antithesis of creativity, because style demands continuity, and you kind stagnation, and this is my style. And yet creativity demands evolution and change. Yes. So as a creative person, I have never subscribed to style. So people ask me the question, Mzili, but you are moving from one style to another. And I tell them that that's not my job to analyze that. That's the job of the historian or the critic or whoever is doing the writing. Someone like you, Matt, can now try to put a string through my work and say, hey, during this genre, he was working like so-and-so, and then, that kind of thing. That is not my occupation as a creative person, as an indigenous expressionist. I just do things and then they put out, and the rest is for history to judge.
Absolutely. In one of your interviews, somewhere you say you were a spiritual man and a sexual man. Let's discuss your spirituality first, probably. Which also reminds me of a work you did, or works that you did back then, exploring African spirituality or spiritual rituals, and you had talismans sewed into your paintings. What was that about?
Yeah, in a way we are all spiritual beings, depending on how you want to express yourself. That combination, spiritual, sexual, has a lot to do with the subject matter in my work. I have always desired to explore human sexuality and human spirituality. What do I mean by spirituality? The need for, I'm going to use a loose word, the need for salvation. The quest for the other existence. The desire to explain the mysterious. Yes? That the unexplainable or the mysterious. In that kind of approach. That is what I would define as spiritual. Also the existence outside the bodily mandate. Because to a certain extent we do live in our minds, and our minds do wander, out of the, our thoughts do wander out of the bodily confines. That's why you're able to dream. And all this is connected with your need for survival, which brings me to the sexual. The sexual is just a channel for procreation, for reproduction, for multiplication of the organism. And it is a catalyst. The sexual is a catalyst for the organism to engage in this act of multiplication and creativity. However, because we do have very, very busy minds, we're always thinking about things and what, we come up with creative ways of expressing this sexuality. We start creating categories of existence. I think this is where the whole gender issue comes in. And this is really what drives humanity, and is what has been feeding my work since I started off in '99. Because I remember my first show was Henry on gender issues. So I have always had this desire to find out the purpose of our existence. How can I cope in this very harsh environment? So this is how I've been looking at the world mostly. And even when I was a little boy, I was always obsessed with religion as an aspect of spirituality. I even tried being born again. This born again thing of Pentecostalism. But ours was severe. It was the other one of, they called them Abazukufu, the reawakened. It was, my mom was a part of that. These are people who shunned all aspects of indulgence, human indulgence. They cut off hair, you eat small amounts of food, you don't get involved in dancing or drinking alcohol or what. They were more like the Puritans, like all the Puritans. That kind of, I tried it when I was a kid, But you know, being inquisitive and being the kind of person that I am, who does not settle in with one explanation, I was always seeking answers and elsewhere, and until I reached a point where I created my own belief system.
What's your belief system right now? How do you practice your spirituality, when they ask?
I think my belief system is, I do believe in the existence of God, but my God is not a thing, it's a concept. It is a concept that is in my mind, that I refer to when I'm in times of trouble, when I'm in times of perplexity and difficulty. When I need some kind of extra help, I tap into this concept, this omniscient, omnipresent kind of existence. Recently, I like very much science, and I am a very keen student of the cosmos and all these things about the universe and whatever mystery energies that are at work. I began to examine the issue of gravity. Gravity is interesting because even in the beginning, if you're a scientist and you want to believe in the Big Bang theory, because the Big Bang theory is also a belief system, really, you will find that Mr. Gravity or Madame Gravity or whatever it is was there, and it was acting upon hydrogen, hydrogen atoms, and fused them into helium and all that kind of stuff. Now this gravity thing was there. It was there. So how do you relate gravity to God as a concept? Yeah? And then I created my own way of worshiping. Every Sunday I go running, jogging, And when I'm jogging, I am fighting gravity. I'm like Jacob, who fought God until morning, And I believe that gravity, we fight gravity every day. And the harder you fight gravity, the stronger you become, isn't it? I mean, like the more you run, if you run up hills and lift heavy things, and you're fighting gravity essentially because it's the most important form of resistance against your actions as an athlete. So these are the thoughts that I'm thinking about. I am not subscribing to Christianity or Islam or Buddhism or all these isms because I believe that these are all just mindsets. They are points of view that have borrowed from tradition. Just like my point of view is borrowing from the tradition of Christianity and of all these other religions that came before. So I'm thinking like that.
Wow, that's a very interesting line of thoughts. It's the first time I'm hearing it. It connects the dots in a very new kind of way, but yeah, very interesting. Another concept that you explore in your work, you've talked about it, is gender issues and its identity, crisis. It is interesting that you've been digging into this even way back during your printmaking and abstract figuration days, yes, as seen from the exhibition, your first solo show. What is it about gender identity that interests you?
Gender is basically, it is part of the struggle to explain who we are. We must agree that human beings, because of their thinking capacity, are very complex beings. It is very hard to pigeonhole human expression, especially in issues of identity. Everybody who pushes a line has the danger of becoming a fundamentalist. If we look at, for example, gender in the traditional sense of the word, it has been associated with biology. That's where people talk about what is your gender at birth. Yeah. So we have people who have got penises being called male, and people who have got vaginas being called female, for the desire for clarity. Now we have another group of people who have some kind of ambiguity, so to speak, because their organs are not very clear. So what has happened to these people is what actually I'm examining. But I hear that sometimes they just assign them based on behavior. So if you behave more like a boy, they'll call you a boy. If you behave more like a girl, they'll call you a girl. Now all these are things that are happening. Then, as time moved on, we have come to, well, by time moving on, I mean like in terms of gender and identity expression, gender identity expression, we have reached a point where there is a lot of, I would call it freedom of expression, and people are being heard probably a little bit more clearly than before because of the platforms that we have for communicating and networking, the social network, the media, social media, yeah? So whoever has a voice is now speaking. And you know what happens when this actually happens? You get the Tower of Babel all over again, where everybody is speaking and nobody is listening to the other. So when it comes to guiding, the need for guidance, I think especially on issues to do with the polity, the people, the community, human beings have created governments. They have created laws, constitutions, and they are using these to determine what is which and which is what. However, that does not mean that we put common sense aside, because everybody, each one of us is capable of examining these issues and perhaps come to their own conclusion, each one of us, about gender especially. I have seen what is happening in the US recently, and it's very interesting. There are people who are called transgender, and these people have changed their sexuality, so to speak, from being a particular prescribed gender at birth to another. There was a lady in the US who is complaining about a certain transgender person who she describes as a man who wants to be a woman using women's toilets. So she's legislating that they should not allow her or him or whatever, or they or them, to use the toilet. Interesting debate, interesting dilemma. I don't know what to say about that in terms of trying to create some explanations and what. But what I know is that at the end of the day, humanity is capable of separating facts from myth, reality from whatever that other thing is. But I also know, as a scholar of philosophy, that reality is contextual. Your reality is different from my reality. Your point of view might not be seeing exactly what I'm seeing from my point of view. So at the end of the day, there's a need for reconciliation and understanding. And that's really what makes us human, the ability to actually empathize and try to understand people who have a differing view from ours. Yes. I think that is where really Nelson Mandela was also aiming, when he was talking about unity, Bob Marley, unity, And unity cannot happen if we do not understand or empathize or put ourselves in the shoes of the other human being. But let's also not confuse each other about these things. I've been very abstract, isn't it? That's the nature of philosophy. Yeah. But also I wanted to say this, because it's now like my personal belief about sexuality. Because I told you I like sexuality and spiritual sexuality. Yeah. I believe that we are all free to express ourselves in whichever way we want as human beings, as long as we do not enter the realm of criminality. And also we have the duty, much as we have the right to express ourselves in that way, we have the duty to understand the vanity of what we are doing, the hedonism, the selfishness of the human nature. Because in the pursuit of happiness, I don't know who wrote that book, I'm trying to remember, but in the pursuit of happiness, you can get lost, you know, and then you forget that actually what you're doing is not necessarily the truth or the norm, for example. Yeah.
Very interesting. Wandered so much into, you know, I mean, your work begs for all these ideas, all this philosophy to be engaged with. So we're very lucky to be talking all the way in depth about about your practice and your work. So tell us, would you say your later recent work lies more to the side of indigenous expressionism, or tackles gender issues?
My most recent work definitely is about is still about gender. It's also actually questioning gender stereotypes. You know, in my culture, the Baganda culture, and also in my country, Uganda, there is this very narrow way of thinking about gender. For example, I plait my hair, and it's an abomination in my culture. There is no book written in my culture that says, thou shalt not plait your hair. But society has come to the conclusion that actually, when you plait hair and you're a man, then you become a female. You know? These are some of the stereotypes that I'm trying to address. And this kind of thinking comes from a form of ignorance. You know, someone not really understanding the history of hair, for instance, among the Bantu or among the Nilotics or among the Africans, you know. So someone can judge you based on the fact that they think that when you do the hair, then you're expressing yourself like a female. And then, and now that actually also denotes that expressing yourself as a female is a what? Is a form of weakness. Now that's another what? Stereotype. Yeah. They say, in Luganda they can say, naye omusajja oyo yeeyisanga omukazi. You know? You know, paraphrasing like, that man behaves like a woman. Now, they use that in a derogatory way, as if behaving like a woman is a lesser form of expression. And it is, and then they accept it, and even the women can use it, and a woman can hold, your mama can hold your hand and say, but my child, be a man, why are you being like a woman? And then you say, what is wrong with being like a woman, honestly? You know? So I use my art to express, to tackle some of these stereotypes. But I do it in a very, very philosophical way, to a point that sometimes even people might miss the point. And this has been one of my biggest problems. Most of the people that look at my work don't interpret it the way I want them to interpret it. But then this is okay, because at the end of the day, I'm not going to be there explaining my work to everybody. I mean, someone gets whatever they get out of it. Yeah.
So In your exhibition, I'm interested in the paintings
Oh, yes,
with the sleeping subjects.
Yes, the sleeping subject.
I thought that was, something.
Yeah,
very-
sometimes I actually do things without even thinking very much about them. Like in this case, I kind of became interested in the body at rest, like the human being at rest. There's a time when you're sleeping, or assuming you have someone that you sleep with, and you look at them sleeping, and then you see the beauty of them sleeping, and then you take out your camera and you take a picture. You capture that moment of sleep and rest. Because sometimes our bodies get distorted when we are awake because of the expressions that keep coming. For example, the face. All those expressions you keep getting, the creases on the forehead, the smile and all that. And then the eyes are also expressing themselves. But when someone is sleeping, everything is frozen. It's like a mask. It's like a death mask in a macabre way.
Okay.
Like so. If you want to know what your death mask looks like, you sleep, and then maybe you can take a video when you're sleeping and see how you look.
Oh, Andy Warhol used to do that.
Yeah. So
reminds
it's
me
kind
of,
of it's kind of
things
like
used
a
to do well.
fascination. It's like, and also there was a message, like that I was trying to build about the sleepover. Like, you can meet someone and then they come and then you sleep. Sleep in the sleeping sense of the sleep. And then the following morning, then they have to go. Maybe they have, when they came to sleep, they had a handbag and some other paraphernalia, and then you wanted to have some kind of notorious record, like the one of Balthazar. So you create the work, like you create this work like that, and then you have this series of all these people sleeping. And it's like the way Balthazar would do his videos,
Do the video.
and he does up to 400.
400.
Me, I only did 3. So there's no, but also that's just on the notorious, on the naughty side of things. But I really have also been using a lot of muses in my work when I'm painting, and the subject of sleep is being examined by other more interesting artists who think maybe a bit deeper about it. But sleep, rest, the need for rest, these are all very important philosophical questions.
Absolutely, there, very much. I mean, somewhere there you remind me of Andy Warhol's work on that work that some say led to the concept of Big Brother.
Oh yes, I think I am.
He recorded people in his studio while they were sleeping. He explored all those things. Interesting.
I think I saw that somewhere.
So General Mzili, your artistic practice extends to music, and you used to put out raga style songs then. Some of the fans were itching to see this music incorporated into the show at Afriart Gallery. Do you consider the music a separate entity from your visual art practice?
I think for practical purposes, I chose to separate the two. I love music. Even up to now, I still do music, but I've never done it commercially. My music has always been, for my own amusement and enjoyment, and also it's a channel for me to create. I created like beats using Fruity Loops, FL Studio.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I created beats. I have actually like tracks. I have like 6 tracks that I created. I don't know how I created them, but I created them. And I didn't use anybody else's assistance to create them. I will play them for you and you will listen to them. Then I recorded songs because I was creating, always creating. And then recently I started creating reggae music with a friend of mine, Massive. and we are creating reggae. We are using tracks that we get on the internet, and then we create reggae songs. But I always look at this as art. I don't look at it as a product that I'm going to sell to the music industry. It's just part of my desire to express myself creatively. I created the character Henry Mzili for your general happiness, because I was just in that mode when, you know, after drinking a few Guinnesses, and then you get the mic, and then you create this rhapsody, and then and then we had this space called Fast Fast back in the day in Bugorobi. So I would go there and sing, and then people told me, oh, you really can sing very well, and you can perform and be a part of the music art scene. I'm actually a registered member of the Uganda Musicians Association, UMA. Just because I want to do things properly, but not because I want to record or be recognized as a musician. But I'm very proud of what I created. I think it was really original stuff.
Oh, did you put out a full-length album?
No, I did not. I did not. I have not gone into the commercial aspects of music. Yes. But one of the things that I desire is to integrate visual art with music. I am in the process of designing a project where I work with young artists, young people, Gen Z, mainly from the areas of Kansanga, Kabalagala, Zambia, Soya, Bunga, there. Because there are a lot of young people who are expressing themselves using music and art, but they are kind of always being derailed by poverty. Then they start escapism. Escapism is where they start using drugs. Yes, marijuana, cat. Even I hear that there are these new drugs coming in from the West.
Oh.
Yes, those very strong things. They are also here. That's what I hear.
Cocaine and
yes, that's what I hear. But I would want to engage these young people, you know, a little bit more into this fusion, like we used to do back in the day, you know, so that we can get them out of this. Well, at least we can distract them enough from the poverty. Because when you do music, when you do art, talimba, like you always end up getting some food, you end up getting some money. It is very hard for you to be creative and fail to get, you know, the bills paid. Yes, it can be a hard and tough journey, but if you work hard and you create products, someone out there will want those products, and then they'll be able to finance your other needs. Yes.
Interesting there. We've been waiting for a show of your works on Home Tap for the last, I think, 4 years.
Yes.
And it was perhaps the right one, mostly for the younger generation to see your work in form of a retrospective. You had been showing at international art fairs, mostly in the last 4 or 5 years. Tell us about the commercial art world and how you have managed to embrace it, and perhaps how artists should conduct themselves in front of players in the art world with money, or flashing money at us, or flashing money at the artists. How should they?
I think, like I've always said, art is a calling. It's like a priesthood. If you come into art looking for money, you might as well go into banking, or because the banks have the money.
I was going to go.
That's where the money is. With art, it's about creativity. It's about expressing yourself. So one of the things that I've always told the young people is, even in my workshops, like Surface says, is that try and create authentically. Look inside you, get an idea, and put it out there. Make sure that the medium you use at least can last long enough for you to earn from it. For example, if I have an idea for a sculpture, I make a sculpture. If I have an idea for a performance, I make a performance. Now, when I make the performance, I don't just make it, but I record it so that it can be something I can show later and get something out of it. And the more of these products you put out, the more visible you become. However, coupled with that, make sure that whatever you are putting out is always critiqued by yourself, first and foremost, and then critiqued by others, so that you can improve it to a level of excellence. Because an excellent product will always have a market. So that brings us to the global market, or what we call akatale ka bulaya akawamu. The art market with the trade fairs and all these art fairs and all these selling points. I have always advised artists to organize in a collective. Now, the best collective is when you join a gallery, fraternity of a gallery, because the gallerists are trained people in this field of marketing the art. You are a trained person, whether you are informally or formally trained, to produce the art, which is the product. The galleries are trained to market the product. So when you work with galleries, your life becomes easier. It has its disadvantages and advantages, but mostly it is always a very sustainable way to go about marketing your art. If you are an individual artist, you need to have the tenacity to handle or juggle several aspects of your trade. You have to handle the production, and then you start handling the go between with the clients who are going to buy the art. Then you have to think about the shows that you're going to put up. We used to do this back in the day. We used to do it a lot because we were we didn't have the institutions. I remember, like when I was starting out, apart from Tulifanya, which was very helpful, other artists had to be everything. They had to be their own curators, their own art historian, and their own dealers and their everything. Yeah? And this is something that we were trying to address a lot with the Pan-African Circle of Artists, trying to train artists in writing about themselves, to present themselves to the world. But thank God to digital media, the smartphone and all these platforms. Now it becomes so easy. Any fool, like Museveni says, any fool can survive in that environment. You know? So you just have to put out a channel there and then you are okay. If you have the product, you show it and you're okay. So young people today are very, very privileged compared to us, where we started from.
Absolutely. Yeah, before we close, you said something very profound in the video, in the show, that you just also touched on a little bit in the last question, that artists are like priests who are meant to serve their societies. Could you please, expand on this?
Yes, it comes from the history of it. Like the history of an artist, say within the traditional African society, the people who carved the masks and the tattoos from Congo, from Benin, from all these West African countries, and the some in Tanzania, Makonde, yeah. They were not really serving themselves. They were serving society. They were creating artworks for the benefit of the society. Most of these artworks were objects of worship. So this is the nature of the artist in the traditional African sense. Similarly, when you examine the art history of the Europeans, you'll find that the traditional European artists, like Michelangelo, like Da Vinci, they were all serving the spiritual realm, the priesthood. They were serving Rome. They were serving the papacy. They were serving all these, the church, the Roman Catholic Church. And they were building, they were making all these artworks to serve. And they got paid subsequently, but mostly they were trying to impress their religious superiors. So in a way, an artist's position has always been to serve. Even if you talk about an artist who is just capturing moments like Van Gogh, or like Intensive, just capturing the natural environment in a form of a painting, the landscape, they are in a way worshipping also, and they are trying to show the beauty, the glory of this creation, this thing that we call earth. And when they are making those pictures, they are not being commissioned mainly. They are not being paid. Artists are rarely paid to make an artwork. The real artist makes the artwork, and if they're lucky, they get paid. But they make it anyway. That is why I've always said that the artist is a priest, and making art is a calling. Now, if you cannot handle that, move out of that kitchen and go and do other things that can lead to money directly.
Yeah, so before we close our interview, we have forgotten to ask one important question from Mzili. Mzili, there was that dark tape matoke on the wall in the exhibition. Was it a parody playing with Mauricio Catalan's comedian?
Yeah, with all due respect to Mauricio Catalan, I have some critical views of the work. I saw the work, the comedian being sold. It's just a banana stuck on the wall with duct tape, being sold for 6.2 million at Sotheby's. And I was kind of very, very nudged into a response. One, I was looking at it optimistically, that maybe the art market is now opening up. That's why we are now having this kind of a sale happening. Then on the other side, it was like a mockery of the whole business of art making. Like just people sit in their studios and paint for hours and hours, and then this man just comes out with a banana and sticks it on the wall, and everything is okay. I did matoke on the wall for my show in response. It was actually a last-minute response, trying to give some optimism that maybe now that banana is being stuck on the wall, I would stick also the plantain, which is the matoke in Uganda. I would stick the matoke on the wall to show that actually now the food is on the wall, the food is harvest time. That is why I did that response.
All right, viewers, thanks for hanging with us during all the way through the conversation with Henry Mzili Mujunga. We've been very lucky to have him here, right at his studio. We've hunted him down as we always do. What you can do right now is like, subscribe to this channel, and share as much as possible. And just wait on what I'll be doing next. I'll try to make sure I bring to you the best of the guests, the best of interviews, video reviews of exhibitions around Uganda, Kampala, East Africa, and Africa at large. Yes, so see you on the next one. Ciao.